The Fray.
From February of 2018 to February of 2023, Kyle Kulinski appeared on the Joe Rogan Show no less than 6 times, 5 as a solo guest, and once for 2020 election coverage alongside Tim Dillon. It seems pretty safe to say that Kyle and Rogan's relationship was pretty cordial back in those days. But guess what? Things have soured, because these days Kyle is churning out anti-Rogan videos at a pace of nearly 1 per week, with titles like, "What the hell happened to Rogan?" and "Joe Rogan's brain is barbecued chicken." You know what I think it is? I think it's Kyle dyed his hair blonde. I think Rogan doesn't like that. Doesn't like the gay Eminem look. But really, this is not just a drift from friendship to indifference. It's a sharp turn into, utter disdain, at least on Kyle's end. As for Joe, as far as I can tell, there's no sign that he's even acknowledged Kyle or his criticisms. If he has any feelings about it whatsoever, they remain an absolute mystery. So let's take a look at what Kyle has been saying, why he's so angry at his former friend. The most obvious reason is that Joe Rogan endorsed and supported Donald Trump for president. But for Kyle, I think this goes a little bit beyond politics. Listen to what Kyle says in this clip, where he is upset that Rogan came to disregard something that Kyle had explained to him all the way back in 2020.
I was on Rogan's show in 2020 on Election Day, and I told him and Tim Dillon about this thing called the Red Mirage, what was likely to happen, which is it's going to look like Trump is winning early in the night, because you got the rural areas coming in first. You got the votes that come in from Election Day get counted first. Those are going to skew way more Republican because Trump has been shitting on mail-in votes and calling it fraudulent, right? And then later on, you get more of the cities come in and you get the mail-in votes counted. Those are going to skew way more Democratic, also because Democrats were taking COVID more seriously, so they wanted to vote by mail. They didn't want to go to a place with a lot of people when it was time to cast the votes. And exactly what I said would happen is what happened. And he told me after that fact that every time people have come to him with rigged election conspiracy theories where they think Trump actually won and it was stolen from him, he told me what I would tell them is Kyle Kulinski told me exactly how the election was going to go before it happened and explained it to me in clear terms. And so I never bought into any of the election rigging conspiracies. This is what he said. Then he interviews Trump, sits across from Trump, lets Trump babble relentlessly about how the election was stolen from him, doesn't push back. And then now after the fact, admits, oh yeah, that guy's been fucking lying the entire fucking time, and it turns out voting is real. Yeah, you don't say.
Wow! Kitty has got some claws, eh? Kyle feels like he gave Joe Rogan the perfect ammo to discredit Trump's 2020 election narrative. But that night, when Rogan needed that ammo the most, when he was face to face with Trump himself, he discarded everything that Kyle had said and just played the simp, gave the softball interview, gave the wet blowjob interview, gave Trump the sensuous testicle massage under the table. So why does Kyle think this happened? Because Rogan fell in with some bad friends and listened to the wrong people, which of course strongly implies that Kyle himself is the good friend, the right person, the person that Joe should have listened to.
Now his entire friend group is all right-wing, and he's admitting here, yeah, Dana White was pressuring me and many other people were pressuring me and they were saying, why don't you endorse Trump? And then he did.
On top of the Trump stuff, Kyle also sees that Rogan, who once perfectly captured the everyman appeal, has essentially become a billionaire dick rider who carries water for the oligarchy and for Elon Musk in particular.
They see no problem with Elon Musk and Mark. Joe had on his podcast Elon Musk, Peter Thiel, Mark Andreessen, Mark Zuckerberg, all of these robber baron oligarchs who are rigging the system, and he let them lie to his audience for 3 hours straight. But now he's going to sit here and pretend like, bro, the corruption on the Democratic side's out of control. And at this point, I don't know how anybody watches this, if I'm being honest with you. At this point, it's like the old appeal, the old charm of the Joe Rogan Experience is so dead and gone, it's laughable. Because his show now, half the time, at least, is the Elon Musk suckfest experience. Like, it just is. It like meat riding Elon 24/7. It's like he's never heard a single argument against anything Elon is doing. He does this really beta cuck thing where he's like, oh, my puny brain could never live up to the amazing big brain of Elon Musk. Oh, he's such a mega genius. I don't even feel human when I'm near him because he's just so smart. Oh, Elon, can I give you a hand job?
After Rogan attacked Tim Walz, who I don't know if you guys know this or not, but Kyle has a crush on Tim Walz. After Rogan attacked that guy, things escalated. The actual substance of the video is not all that interesting to me, but Joe Rogan basically called Tim Walz Tampon Tim, and Kyle wasn't having it. And later in the same video, this moment happens, and I gotta be honest with you, I kind of fucking love it.
Joe Rogan sat there while Trump said to him, I never said lock her up about Hillary. I never said lock her up. I'd say, whoa, and the state would say lock her up. Meanwhile, cut to the fucking compilation, him saying it like 100 times. I'm like, fucking, of course he said that. Of course he said that. You let Trump lie to your face relentlessly for fucking 3 hours straight, and you sat there giggling like a schoolgirl, you bitch.
Kyle also had some incredibly harsh words to say about the quality of Joe's show in general, essentially lambasting him as a hypocrite whose intellectual curiosity has shriveled away to nothing, and whose latest shows are insipid right-wing dreck, which is terrible for the country and for anyone stupid enough to still be listening.
So this is what the Joe Rogan Experience has become. I watched a great video on this the other day. I forget, Mr. Beat or something like that did it. And he made a great point. He was like a huge Joe Rogan fan, and then now he's not at all. And the argument he made is like, look, I liked listening to Rogan's podcast when Rogan was a genuinely curious individual who asked a lot of questions. Like, he had a childlike curiosity about everything. And so he would bring on these people from different fields, different, people with different expertise, and he would ask them things he was interested in. He'd have on like some sleep specialist to talk about the importance of sleep, and he would probe him for an extended period of time, right? Or whatever. Like, he used to have interesting podcasts where he's a curious guy and he dives into specific things from a variety of different topics. That's what he did. Well, some point along the way, he fucking lost it. And now it's, let me bring on the biggest charlatans, con men, and frauds, and fucking goofballs. And every day, same fucking narrative. Oh my God, COVID authoritarianism. Oh my God. Oh my God, wokeness bad, wokeness bad. Oh my God, bro, the Democrats are so stupid, bro. This is all you hear. This is all you hear. And it's never, now he literally endorsed Trump, had him on the podcast, let him lie to his audience for 3 fucking hours. And he had the nerve, after all of that, to say, who, me, bro? I got ideas that are like right-wing ideas and left-wing ideas, Republican ideas and Democrat ideas. Like, I'm not actually even part of a tribe, bro, or anything like that, dog. Go fuck yourself. You don't get to fucking cheerlead for MAGA and Trump, coddle Elon's nutsack when he's on your show once a fucking month, have on JD Vance, have on Donald Trump, never fucking fact check them or ask them any serious questions, have on all the robber barons, and then pretend like, who, me, bro? I'm like in the middle or something, dog. No big deal. So, but
guys,
believe you me, it's getting worse.
All in all, over the last 4 months, Kyle has made 14 videos now about Joe Rogan. And I might be missing some, to be honest with you. It's become this weird one-sided feud, a vendetta. And clearly it is, to some extent, personal. That being said, there's a reason why I'm not showing you more clips right now. The reality is that while Kyle's personal feelings come up from time to time in these videos, sometimes simmering just beneath the surface, other times boiling over a little bit, most of what these videos are is just Kyle using Rogan's name to make political arguments. Kyle's always been a policy wonk, but he knows that policy-centric videos are not sexy to the average YouTube viewer. But you know what is sexy? Using big names to get big old drama clicks. Kyle knows that as a 6-time Joe Rogan guest, people are fascinated that he is now shit-talking Rogan nearly nonstop. But really what he's doing is about 2% actual shit-talking and 98% using Joe Rogan's name to educate his viewers about policy positions and political points that matter to him. I suppose I'm doing something kind of similar by even talking about this. I've had conversations with both of these guys. Kyle, I've been watching on and off for years. Joe Rogan, I never really watched, but I see clips here and there. I liked going on his show. He seemed like a really nice dude. But I have to say, when I've seen him recently, his energy is very different. He seems a little more high-strung, more nervous. And I occasionally detect hints of like that 1,000-yard stare that crazy people get when they go absolutely batshit nuts. The Roseanne Barr eyes, you know, those beady little, oh shit, what's going on out there? Ultimately, I think you have a situation here where Kyle is a guy whose politics are centered around policy, and Rogan is a guy whose politics are centered around vibes, man. And for a while, policy and vibes lined up in such a way where the two of them could kind of coexist happily. But now, vibes and policy are enemies. It's all out of whack. And so now, Rogan and Kyle are enemies. Watching Kyle's Rogan videos over the last 4 months, I think that at first he held out some hope that his words would reach Rogan and pressure him into a course correction. But as time went on, that hope curdled into something much closer to resentment. The more Rogan drifted into the orbit of figures Kyle despises, you know, the oligarchs, the reactionaries, the grifters, the more Kyle seemed to take it a little personally, as if he wasn't just watching some media figure lose the plot. He was watching a friend willfully ignoring everything that he seemingly once knew to be true. At first, Kyle's criticisms carried the tone of an exasperated teacher trying to correct a wayward student. Now they feel more like an indictment, a eulogy for the Joe Rogan that he once knew, laced with all this bitterness of someone who feels not just disappointed, but betrayed. And yet, despite the escalation in tone, Rogan remains silent. No response, no acknowledgement, no counterattack. Our best hope for that ever happening is probably some future guest on Joe Rogan's show bringing it up. Failing that, I don't think we'll ever see Rogan directly address any of Kyle's criticisms because it's not his style. Rogan tends to engage with controversy only when it's unavoidable, when it spills over into mainstream discourse or threatens his bottom line. But Kyle is not CNN. Kyle is not the New York Times. He's just another YouTuber. And as far as Rogan's concerned, Kyle might as well be shouting into the fucking void, right? That leaves Kyle in a strange position. His vendetta against Rogan is getting him views, sure, but it's a one-sided war. He's swinging at a ghost, railing against a man who either doesn't care or refuses to dignify the attacks with a response, or maybe is not even aware it's happening. And so the question becomes, how long does Kyle keep this up? Does Kyle continue to make Rogan videos every week, hoping for a reaction that never comes? Or does he eventually move on, leaving behind a trail of angry thumbnails and unanswered attacks? At some point, the grudge match starts to look a lot less like a fight and more like a guy yelling at an empty chair, like Clint Eastwood. Remember that? And the longer that goes on, the more people start to wonder, who's really winning here? Of course, like I said, the main thing driving Kyle is ultimately the dissemination of his politics to the broadest possible audience. So he probably doesn't even really care about the concept of winning against Joe Rogan. For him, it's probably more about using Rogan's name as a conduit for the arguments he actually cares about. Whether or not Rogan ever responds is kind of besides the point. Kyle gets to frame the discussion on his terms, reaching people who might not otherwise have engaged with his political takes. In that sense, Rogan is less of an adversary and more just a tool, a recognizable name that functions as a gateway to broader ideological critiques that Kyle Kulinski wants to make. That's why Kyle keeps on making these videos, even as the feud remains completely one-sided. Because every time he puts Joe Rogan in the title, he taps into an audience that might not have typically clicked on a video about tax policy or labor rights or healthcare reform. And as long as that strategy keeps working, keeps bringing in the views, the engagement, the opportunities to push his messaging, I guess he has no real reason to stop. So maybe this really isn't even a grudge match at all. Maybe it's just business. Kyle gets to use Rogan as a symbol of the broader right-wing drift in media, and Rogan, whether he knows it or not, provides the perfect punching bag. So as long as people keep watching, I guess Kyle has every reason to keep on swinging. On a side note, the other night on an episode of my podcast, I actually got a little bit hot under the collar at Rogan, and I might have said a few things. Let's take a look at that.
I feel embarrassed that I was on your show twice. I only did it because the fucking people watch your dumbass. I've never liked your shit, you fucking mongoloid moron.
Oh, shit.
You bald-headed fucking... The only reason I fucking have bit my tongue in the past is because, like, some vague part of me is like, maybe I'll get on again. But that ain't happening. I'm a fucking has-been at this point. So I can just say, fuck Joe Rogan and his bald-headed ass. He's a retard. He's always been bad for the intellect of this fucking nation. And this shit he's spewing right now is fucking utter garbage horse shit. And I wish I could take a big shit right in his mouth.
But you know what? I'm an angry guy. Sometimes I get a little upset. Sometimes I get a little hot and bothered. And I just want to say, I'm just kidding, Joe. You know I love you, right? You know I love your fucking big, bald, stupid ass. Right, Joe? Yeah, you know. We're cool.
Subscribe, rate, comment, 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 subscribe, rate, comment.